There you are live.
I think that's me, right? Still kind of new on this one. All right, good afternoon. I am Chair Joanna Patrice Haggerty, and I would love to welcome you to the November 16th Public Art and Cultural Commission meeting. Today, well, I guess I have to do a brief overview. We're supposed to have 9 members. I think we have less than that right now. I think the count is escaping me at the moment. 6, I think, total at the moment. And we are here to support art and culture. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website, and also linked on the Public Art and Cultural Commission webpage on the City of Asheville's webpage. We also have an option for the public to listen live by phone. For those of you who are out there today with us, we welcome you. I will now go through and introduce all the committee members who are participating virtually. Please make sure to mute your microphone if you are not speaking. When you have a question or would like to speak, unmute your microphone. Please remember to mute your phone or microphone after you're done speaking. Committee members, as I call your name, please say a quick hello. Give me 1 second. Of course, I did not have my pack agenda pulled up. There we go. Okay, Allie McGee.
Hello.
Katie Cornell. Here. Awesome. Andrew Fletcher.
Good afternoon.
Shirley Whitesides.
Hello.
Pat Kappas.
Hello.
And Pete Perez.
Hello.
Awesome. To help our audience follow along, I will state each section of the agenda aloud and do a vocal roll call for each vote. Additionally, I ask that the committee members raise their hand to speak and I will call upon them. Okay, I think that's it, right? We get to start into the presentation now.
Okay, let me. Okay, the first thing up is approving our minutes from our last meeting. So Joanna, if you want to walk us through that.
Yes. Give me a second. Is it just a standard vote, right? There's not anything specific, right? I just will need someone to motion it. Did everybody get a chance to look at them, or do we have any updates that need to be made on them first and foremost? We all feel good about that? Okay. Does someone want to, right, do we have to motion them to approve? Sorry, forgive me as I'm still figuring out. Great. Thank you for the shakes. I see Andrew raised a hand. You want to come off?
Yeah, particularly thorough minutes. I move to approve the September 2023 minutes.
I love it. Yeah, we love having Carly back, right?
Well, those thorough minutes are actually done by Ellie.
And we'll take that too. So helpful. Do I get to have a second?
I'll second.
Great, thanks, Pete. All right, I'm going to do a roll call, and if you will say aye or nay. Oh no, and now I lost the roll again. Okay, Katie Cornell.
Aye.
Allie McGee.
Aye.
Pat Kappas.
Aye.
Shirley Whitesides.
Aye.
And myself, aye. And I think that's everybody, right? Awesome.
And then this is just a quick update for everybody that we are currently in the winter cycle for applications for vacant seats on commissions, boards and commissions. And that application deadline is November 26th. So if you have folks in mind that you would like to reach out to encourage to apply, please do so. Let them know that that is the due date to get those applications in. And then we will be able to review those, make our recommendations, and then those nominations would go to council on January 9th. Okay, and with that, I guess we're ready to move into new business. And we're going to start with our guest speaker, Sekou Coleman. And he's going to talk to us about Walton Street Park.
Thank you, Carly, and thank you to members of the committee for having me. Many of you know me, but for the sake of those that don't, I just ask that you indulge me for a couple minutes so I can do a very, very brief introduction. Yes, my name is Sekou Coleman, geez, for like the past 30 years or so, I have been involved in various ways of engaging art and community and youth in various spaces from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to here in Asheville, North Carolina. A lot of you know of my work with Word on the Street and Asheville Writers in the Schools, as it was formerly known, Arteria Collective, where I was the executive director until June of this year. Since that time, I have been working as a consultant with the Southside United Neighborhood Association. And many of you might also know that my relationship with Southside goes back to 2017, where I was the project manager for a grant that had been received by Green Opportunities from the Kresge Foundation that was supposed to support initiatives around creative placemaking and fresh local food and the intersection of both. So that work was responsible for the creation of what became known as Southside Rising, and also spawned a few arts-related projects, including Southside Rising for Justice, which was an event we had at the Eddington Center, where we had artists come to help break in a new pavilion that was built in the garden with the grant funds that we had received. There was also the Black Nativity presentation in the winter of 2018 with multiple local artists, including Michael Hayes and Ernie Mapp and Ray Mapp and Gwen, others who were involved in doing arts for several performances, not just at the Eddington Center, but also at the Shiloh Center, at the Stevens Lee Center, at the Burton Street Center, performance at Asheville Community Theater, and then one final performance at the YMI Cultural Center. And then also, while working with Word on the Street, we did several various community engagement, arts and culture projects for the Southside community, including an event called Southside Stories, which was a oral history process at the Eddington Center, where we brought in several individuals from the community to share their stories through various forms of art. We use video recording, audio recording, we use collage, and many other media as well. And a short video that was produced, I think that's on YouTube as well. And a few of the young people from Word on the Street were also involved in a project, a collaborative project with, at that time, the Poet Laureate North Carolina, I'm drawing a blank on her name now. But this was for the Nasty Branch River. And so they worked on a poem together. And some of that poetry is actually going to be featured on the signs that are being put up on the Greenway. So all of that to say that I've been working with arts and culture and youth and Southside for quite a long time. And this is just the sort of next phase in my relationship with that community and with creative placemaking. This is a project that's taking place in Walton Street Park. And for those that are unfamiliar with the history there, the park itself is a historic monument. Resident Priscilla Robinson worked with others to actually get the historic designation for the park. The pool at that park was the first space for African Americans in Western North Carolina, not just Asheville, to swim during segregated Asheville. And while there was a lot of neighborhood opposition to this, when the Grant Center opened its expansion earlier this year with the pool there, that was sort of the final acknowledgement that the pool up at Walton Street was not going to be reopened as the pool. However, Parks and Rec was involved in making sure that there were resources to renovate the park and also respect what the community wanted in terms of being able to honor the history and the legacy of that park. So a survey was done, and one of the main pieces of feedback from that survey in terms of what the community wanted to see was a mural. And so Parks and Rec put out an RFP. We applied back in August, were awarded the work. And so I'm here today to talk about that public art project at Walton Street Park. So thank you for that introduction, and I'll get down to business. So I want to first introduce the team. We can go to the next slide, and actually the one after that. You'll probably recognize, well, you should recognize me because I'm speaking. The woman standing next to me is Miss Jenny Pickens, no stranger to public art or art in general here in Asheville. Jenny is the lead artist on this project and has performed several pieces of public art here in the city. I'm working as the project manager on this. In addition to Jenny and myself, next slide, please. There are a team of 5 young people from Southside that are working as junior artists. You see 3 of them. The ones on the left are the ones involved in the project. 3 of the ones involved in the project. We have 3 young men and 2 young ladies, all of whom are between the ages of 11 and 12. They are all either current residents or recently former residents of the Southside community. And even though they may not currently live in the area, they have family from, brothers, sisters, parents, grandparents that still live in Southside. So there's still a connection to the community there. And so the process is that this team, we're going to be working together on a mural for the park. Next slide, please. So the vision behind this mural, we can move ahead. So what part of, I mentioned earlier that there have been renovations to the park. And one of those renovations was this basketball court, which is a much more advanced and aesthetically pleasing space than what was there before. And so Jenny had the idea of doing a mural on the basketball court because, as those who might have experienced with murals in the past will know, a lot of times doing murals requires ladders and scaffolding and everything when you do it on a building. And this provides a way so that we can make it accessible, make the process accessible to everyone. In terms of what that might look like, we can go to the next slide. This is a picture of a mural at a basketball court in Atlanta, Georgia. There are several examples of this sort of approach to doing murals on basketball courts. And so this is just one example of what it could look like. But what it actually will look like is something that we're in the process of developing. And so I want to talk a little bit about what that process is like. So next slide. And we'll continue. So this began in the summer, towards the end of the summer camp season at the Grant Center, where I did a information session with students at the summer camp. There, at that time, I talked to them about what would the possibility of the project be, what would be expected of them, and things of that nature. And I asked for those that would be interested to sign up. The reason why I did this is because from my experience working with youth, it's very important to have their consent and their buy-in on projects. A lot of times young people are sort of forced into different activities. Oh, I think it would be good to do this sort of thing. And they go along with it, but they're not really into it. We really wanted to make sure that they fully understood what this was all about. So in addition to the information session, after I had gotten the details from everyone, I followed up and conducted one-on-one interviews, which were videoed because we're documenting the process from start to finish. So this is a screenshot from one of the interviews with Devon, who is one of the young men in the program. Each interview lasted for anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes and covered a range of questions from what is your name and where do you live, to how much do you know about the community, what are your passions, what kind of things make you smile, and what kind of things bring you joy. So as a result of the interview process, we got our cohort together, and that's how we landed with the 5 young people that are now part of the project. Next slide, please. After everyone had been brought in, the next thing that we did was start with some training with them. So in this photo, you'll see Carissa Pfeiffer, who is part of the special collections team at Buncombe County Library. The reason why Carissa was here was so that these young people could learn to do oral history interviews. We wanted to take a different approach to doing this mural as opposed to just having the artist come up with something and then painting it. We really wanted to make sure that it's responsive to the community. And so in order to do that, we trained these young people in how to do oral histories so that they could speak with elders from the community to find out what their memories and experiences with Walton Street Park and Walton Street Pool are and use that as inspiration. So in this photo, you'll see that they're learning how to use the recorders. During that day, we also just talked about the process of doing oral history interviews and came up with sample questions that they would use. And they did some mock interviews with each other where they were able to sort of model that and get an experience for what it was like. Next slide, please. All of that was in preparation for an event that we had on the 21st of October called the Southside Reunion and Family Fun Field Day. This was an event that the Neighborhood Association had received a neighborhood matching grant to support. And we had over 200 residents from the community come to Walton Street Park for a day full of fun and food and music and games. And during that time, the young people were reaching out to many of the elders there and doing oral history interviews with them so they could get more information to help them with the design of the mural. Next slide, please. After we did the oral history interviews, we came back into our space. We meet a couple of times per month at the Grant Center on Saturdays. Our next meeting is actually this coming weekend. And so Jenny has been working with them on various art techniques to help them prepare. But we also took the time to listen to the oral history interviews, understand some of the themes, and just share some feedback and reflections about what the entire experience is like. So where do we go from here? The next step is going to be, we're taking an approach to this that is very similar to the way that comic books or animated movies are produced, in the sense that there's a lead artist. So Jenny is the lead artist who will be responsible for the actual visual piece itself. With the input of the young people and inspired by the oral history stories that we've captured, we're going to come up with a story that will be illustrated by Jenny's art. Jenny is going to just essentially do the outline of that. And then we're going to equip these young people with iPads, which will help them to bridge the gap, the skill gap between Jenny and themselves. And they will each be given a particular piece of this overall visual story to do the coloring and shading. So for the next several weeks, we're going to be working on what that looks like and creating, ideally by the end of February, early mid-March, a draft visual that we'll be able to share with the community for feedback. Once that draft is prepared, they will then continue their training and get ready for the installation day at the park. We're going to plan that to be in the spring so that the weather's a little bit nicer. And rather than doing a traditional approach of just having the artist create the mural, we're going to invite the community out. And the process is going to be very much like a coloring book or color by numbers, where the stencil, the outline will be created on the basketball court itself. And the young people will each be responsible for one portion of it, working with residents of the community to fill in, paint it in, and make it the finished product. The idea behind that is that by engaging more members of the community in the creation of the mural, there's a greater sense of ownership and connection to this piece of art. Yeah, I think that's the last slide, and that's sort of an overview of the entire project. I will say that while the goal of this project is to produce the piece of public art, a secondary goal is to sort of create a new generation of young creative placemakers. So they're learning these skills. They're learning about the connection between art and community. They're gaining this opportunity to be engaged in their neighborhood in meaningful ways, and hopefully building a cohort who will be doing much more in the future to add to their neighborhood using art and social justice. So that's the project, and I'm happy to entertain any questions at this time if necessary.
Go ahead, Katie.
This is a fabulous project. Every bit of it. Way to go, Sekou. I'm thrilled to hear this is happening. My big question is, one of the problems that we deal with public art is that there's not enough thinking or planning around maintenance. And so is there a plan around maintenance for this piece? Because this is going to be high traffic on a basketball court.
So that is a good point, and that is a piece that we are going to be in conversation with Parks and Rec about, because there's a larger vision for the future of Walton Street Park. So we chose the court itself as the canvas, if you will, for the mural, as opposed to another surface that was there, which is the pool building. And there have already been conversations within the community about converting that pool building into a community history museum. So this is sort of the first step of an ongoing relationship with Parks and Rec about using art and beautifying that park in various ways. I will say that we'll have access to the same sort of information and tools and resources that Parks and Rec have, because in the renovation or the expansion of the Grant Center, the basketball court down there, there's an outdoor court at the Grant Center that has a non-traditional sort of design on it. It's not as elaborate as what we're planning to do. So we'll make sure that in the process we're using the same sort of coding as the way that the courts are done. If I'm understanding correctly, you put the paint down and it has to cure for a while, and there's another layer that goes over it. So there'll be ways to treat it in order to make it last and be weatherized and withstand the high traffic.
What a great question, Katie. Who else wants to unmute themselves or raise a hand?
I think it's a great idea, and I'm glad to see that you changed your mind from the pool, because I was concerned about trying to do a mural around the pool, and I think that's a great idea. And any way I can help, let me know.
Thank you, Ms. Shirley.
Yeah, I like the way you maximize community involvement too, Sekou. I mean, that's about as big as you could get. We're always looking for that in projects, and it's obvious a lot of thought got put into that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll follow up on Pete too. The building more placemakers in the future is something that Pat can totally get behind. So that's really exciting to hear you have that longevity with it too, and figuring out how do we integrate, because mural painting is a little complicated, right? So how do we break that information down? So yeah, really, really valuable.
It's great. I'll just say, just as a closing point, what we've been doing is sharing with them the opportunity for careers in the creative sector. And so as they've been getting to know Jenny, one of the things that we've been talking with them about is like, okay, so Jenny, like, how did you come into art? And like, let's talk about some of the work that you're doing. And by the way, how much are some of your paintings sold for? And so when you see those kids react to like, oh my God, you sold a painting for how much? That gets them thinking much differently about opportunities in art and so forth. So that's another sort of piece. It's multi-layered, if you will.
It's clear, and I think we can see that at PAC for sure. Any other thoughts, questions, discussion points for Sekou? Well, I see Carly move the slide along, so if we don't have any other thoughts, I'm curious if we want to open the discussion a little bit for this $30,000 that's being requested for this project and support. I guess I'm a little bit curious, is there a budget, or do we just kind of allocate the money and they get to do with it what they want? This is a little bit new for us in some of the ways we're allocating this money, so this is exciting. So yeah, obviously there's not a list of what that would go to there. Is it just basic paint supplies, things like that?
Well, I can break down how it would be allocated. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but there is a significant portion, of course, to Jenny as the lead artist, because artists need to be paid. There's also a project management fee. for myself for doing all the wrangling and so forth. I'll add, in addition to working with the young people, I'm very much in communication with their parents. As I'm sure Ms. Shirley understands, you have to have those relationships with young people and their families in order to keep them engaged. And also liaising with the staff at the Grant Center. So there's a piece for that. Because the Southside Neighborhood Association is not an established nonprofit and does not have the capacity to enter into a business relationship with the city, we're using a nonprofit fiscal sponsor, which is Bountiful Cities. So Bountiful Cities has a fiscal sponsor fee. And so there's a portion of it that goes for that. And very much the young people are receiving stipends because they also need to be compensated for their time and engagement. So there's a portion of the budget for that. And then the balance is split between some of the equipment that we'll get. I mentioned iPads and the software for them. Obviously, the supplies and materials that will be needed for the mural itself, the paint and the ceiling and brushes and tools and so forth. And food. Anytime you bring these young people together, you got to make sure to feed them. So that's a good chunk of the budget as well. So those are the ways that things are broken down in the budget.
I see Katie raised her hand.
Is Parks paying for a portion of this, or is it all coming from the Public Art Fund?
Seiko's like, who's going to answer that question?
I'm sorry, that was directed at Carly.
She said, we'll take all that money.
So yeah, there is a split of funds that is being contributed from Parks and the Capital Projects Fund, and then from this public art for this public art component. So this $30,000 for this effort for this public art piece of it would be coming completely from public art.
Yeah, when you mentioned a lot of what you were spending on, I was a little like, is 30,000 enough? So yeah, I'm glad to know there's some other funding support for this as well.
I was getting ready to ask the same question. Is 30,000 enough?
Right.
Well, and I'll also mention the at least my vision for this is to leverage this work to do more. With the approval and getting going, looking for other sources of funding and other opportunities to augment this work to continue even beyond what the installation of the mural would be. So, and I had a conversation, I think, a few weeks ago with Steph about this project where she actually mentioned that, if there was a need for additional funding to invite me to come before the committee and make that appeal at a future date or what have you. So there very well may be a need for additional things, especially as we start looking at additional engagement around the installation of the mural and then what the next phase of the work looks like. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know there was discussion too around sort of the adaptive reuse of the pool and the pool house. And I think that could be a future public art project with additional engagement with the community to kind of think and imagine what that space could become. So I see this as sort of a precursor, to that kind of building excitement.
So Carly, that's another question I have for you is, this is kind of the first time Parks is kind of taking this on. And I know they're doing a comprehensive plan right now. And so is this are there more public art projects that are going to be coming to us from Parks?
I think we can anticipate that, yes. And I think that's something that us as a commission, perhaps at our annual retreat in January, we can talk about that relationship with Parks, think about some of our subcommittees and maybe, kind of formalizing that process between us and Parks and what that relationship is. I think that's something that we need to sit down and kind of work through.
Now, I'll say that this was also born from acknowledgement by Parks and Rec of the harm and the fractured relationship between their department and the Southside community, specifically when it comes to Walton Street Park and Walton Street Pool, and the history of community feeling like we said we wanted to do one thing and y'all said y'all were going to do it and now you're not doing it. and then you create something totally different, which is not what we said we wanted. And so there was a recognition by the team at Parks that like we need to do something needs to be done to honor and to make the community feel whole as a result of that. And so I think that definitely helped to catalyze the movement on some of these things initially.
Yeah. I see Shirley raised her hand again. I know that darn mute button.
I was trying to follow protocol.
You did so good.
On the sealer to make sure that it's going to last for a while. I hate to see a mirror or the work created and then it wash away. When you look at a lot of Black Lives Matter murals across the country, some of them fading away. Make sure you have a sealer or seal it enough, but we don't want anybody to break the leg playing ball or anything, that it is well protected from the weather.
Absolutely. And as I showed in one of the earlier slides in the presentation, there's precedent. These things have been done in other places. So thankfully, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We have the ability to connect with others, not just here in Asheville, but in other places and find out, hey, what are some of the best practices? What are some of the things that have been used to ensure that this work has that longevity and staying power?
These are great conversations. Anybody else want to chime in with other thoughts or questions before we kind of move to a vote?
I'll just pop in as well to say that I've seen in other places and basketball courts where there has been a design that's been around for a few years, and then the community gets together again and comes up with a new design and repaints it again. So it's this continual opportunity for activation in this way that's really great. So yes, absolutely preserving this for a while, but then also this gets to be an ongoing conversation. It gets to be an ongoing project potentially, however the scope of it ends up looking, but there is that potential I've seen in other places. So that's very exciting as well.
Yeah, great point. Any other big thoughts or questions? Sekou, there was also in the South Slope, they did that street sweep or streetscape, I forget what it was called years ago, and that was an example on what not to use. It was attempting to be temporary. So knowing that there are also local resources to find what not to use is also valuable, right? So yeah, awesome. Well, do we want to debate this a little further or talk this out, or do we feel like we're ready to? Awesome. Someone in particular want to make a motion? I'm happy to do it if not.
I'll move.
I'll
Awesome.
second.
Great. Pete makes a motion. Katie seconds it. Let's do a quick roll call. Joanna Haggerty says aye. Allie McGee.
Aye.
Katie Cornell. Andrew Fletcher.
Aye.
Shirley Whitesides.
Aye.
Pat Kappas.
Aye.
And then Pete made the motion. So Sekou, you got your money and we are so excited to see this grow, and please let us know how we can support the process. It's really exciting.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much. I appreciate the support. I'm really excited to get this going. I'm going to slide out because Southside has a meeting this evening, so I've got to hustle over to the Grant Center and get ready for that. But I will definitely be sure to keep folks involved and would be happy at any point for those that are sort of in the radar of this. If there are opportunities to talk about this project, I know, for example, that South Arts has a creative placemaking summit coming up in March that I'm planning on attending. But would love to be able to just sort of be out there and talk a bit about this project and elevate it as a way that other communities might be able to model and work with. So if you know about those kinds of opportunities, feel free to share them my way. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sekou.
Thank you so much. How exciting. We love spending money on art, right? Or I do anyway. Okay. Carly, do you want to introduce John? Do you want me to do it? What do we?
You go ahead.
Awesome. Okay. I'm super excited to have John Philman here to kind of talk a little bit about the Office of Special Events and see how we can support him. John, it's so good to see you.
Yes, thank you so much. It's so great to feel the support. And it's been a long time since we've had a committee to report to. And so just even considering taking on special events is amazing. And I'm so excited. So yes, I'm John Philman, Community Event Manager. I'm here with our director, Christopher Coral. We're part of the Community and Regional Entertainment Facilities Department. And outdoor special events is a piece of that, a small piece. You can go to the next slide. So just a brief history. I first started with the city in 2007, and I was hired to facilitate the permitting of non-city produced events for the Parks and Recreation Department. At the time, all of the permits for special events were handled through Parks and Recreation. We had a wonderful staff member named Janet Dack, who worked both on city property events and also the events that the city was producing. Back at the time, you know, we had Belshare and the Film Festival. We had a lot of events the city was doing, including Independence Day and many others. But my position was created just to handle the non-city produced events at the time. And so I was not part of the Belshare group except to help with the event when it took place. In 2010, Gary Jackson, our city manager at the time, established a permitting consolidation plan where they wanted all permitting to happen through our Development Services Department. And so I was moved down to that department on Charlotte Street, and we operated in the same environment as they do for building permits, construction permits, all those types of things. Although we realized after a little while that the type of work that we need to do with special events, a lot of times these organizers are not familiar with the event process like a construction contractor would be. So it was almost like my work took a lot more conversation and a lot more training than the typical contractor that was trained to do that coming in to get their permits. So over time, our director at the time, Sam Powers, moved us, the special events office, under economic development. And we did our standard role of permitting, but we also got into event product development. So for that role in economic development, we were looking at ways that we could help utilize special events as a motivational tool to start new businesses, to grow businesses. And it was a really a great opportunity. In between 2014 and where we are now, our legal department changed and looked at North Carolina's general statutes and understands that special events are not necessarily specifically categorized as an economic development function. So I graciously moved under Christopher Coral and his department, and now we're one small micro division of his combination of entertainment facilities, which is a huge undertaking. And I try to keep as much as I can off of Chris's plate to do my own work. Next slide. So when we were with economic development, of course, studies is part of what that department did. And we received a grant from the Appalachian Regional Commission to conduct an economic development research study on how do events motivate entrepreneurship and what is the economic benefit of outdoor special events. They came up with a lot of great information, interviewed many events and organizers of events to learn what they had done and how it benefited them. And these three key points being contributing to a thriving local economy, supporting diverse community, special events playing a significant role in supporting local business, arts, nonprofits, and festivals generating $2.7 million in additional revenues for local event vendors. And that was the study's final conclusions. There was a lot more detail in that, but I'm so glad we had the opportunity to do that. It took about a year to complete the study, and we've since followed up with the state on the results and where we've been since then. Next slide. So I put this in from a different presentation, but I wanted it to be first and foremost in everyone's minds around the work and the change that happened when we went from economic development into the CREF department, Community and Regional Entertainment Facilities. And one of those major changes was that we cannot, as a city, support certain events based on alignment or potential to advance city council goals, because in essence, that then may give the impression that we're not supporting what equates to alternative messages. And so when we were looking at our event partnership programs and looking at the service delivery that we provide, we really had to take a step back and think, are we motivating certain things to take place in public space incorrectly? Because it's public space, we have to treat everyone essentially equal, and we can't get into content. Where I was going into, under that department, a little further into content creation and to what types of content would be most beneficial for events, and then scoring and evaluating events for potential city support based on their outcomes. And that's something that we can't do. So as we go through this a little bit more, I'll reflect back on this legal advice on the preferential treatment of certain programs versus others. Next slide. So we maintain a variety of external resources on our webpage. We try to be super accessible. So we have a Let's Chat, which I'd say is the easy button for anyone that wants assistance. They can schedule time directly on my calendar, and we can talk and chat and look at event plans and help with event maps and talk about all of the benefits and the costs of events. So that's my favorite feature. But we also have written event guides, which get longer every year. I think our current guide is upwards of 50 pages long. I am so sorry that that's the case. But it is just every year there's more things that people want to add, and we work collectively with a group of city departments, and they all have their own policies and procedures that we have to incorporate into our guide. We maintain a resource library, which I'm very proud of. A lot of cities don't have a resource library that provides guidance for organizers on where to get certain things and resources that they might need for their event. The resource library has information on event safety and information on food permitting, which isn't done by the city, but the county. We have city property information and maps, policies, guidelines, things that would be in addition to our event guide. And so, and we also have a new assistant, Kate O'Connor, and she's reworked that using Canva. So it looks a lot nicer now than I did it also. So please check that out if you have a chance. We put in our street performer guidelines that we didn't create, but we're a good resource for people to find that information. We have a schedule of events and a public calendar. We can't promote these public events that take place on public property on the city's channels, but we can create our own calendar where we provide information to the public. So we have that calendar on our webpage, and we also have our production calendar where we keep all of our internal details about that. We also created a form, and Andrew, I will answer that one moment. First Amendment Public Assembly registration form, just for people that want to get a non-permitted free speech public assembly event take place. Yes, sir. Or actually, Johanna, should you be the one to accept these? I'm sorry.
You're totally fine, John. We're an informal board here.
Okay.
Thanks, John. This, helpful and good information. Just a question about how you can't promote these events. You can list them, but you cannot push them, say, in special ways that you would consider promotion. So it's not, we can still have a calendar where a member of the public can look and see all the special events permitted and when and where they're going to be, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I just wanted a little clarity on where promotion and cataloging.
Yeah. I had at one time I created a Facebook page called Asheville Events, and I believe it was before the city's Facebook page took effect. And that's where I was promoting all of the events and all of the businesses that supported events. And that is not something that we can continue to do. And so now through this calendar, we have a form that organizers can fill out. It includes all the questions that people may ask, and we put that form in there so that anyone that wants to attend an event or is interested in knowing about what events are coming up can register for that calendar, and they can be notified the moment any application comes in. As soon as that application comes in, it automatically populates to the calendar. And then their fact form that they may send in later will add additional information into the calendar, like whether they're accepting vendors, what if they're a fee to attend, all sorts of answers to questions that are common for events.
Okay, great. Thanks. That clears that up.
We established a Google communications group. So we have about 120 members in the Google group, I believe, right now. And it's all vendors, event organizers, people that are involved in events. And that's how we primarily send out our notices to the event industry in Asheville. Anyone can be part of that Google group, and we encourage organizers to work together and share needs and opportunities between each other. But mostly it's just me posting updates to the group. We also handle commercial film and photography. So that would be an outdoor public space. Asheville has a super lenient policy relating commercial filming and photography. Pretty much anything that a tourist could do on their vacation taking pictures is the same thing that commercial filming and photographers can do when they come to Asheville. A lot of people are always surprised, and we get most of our film work in Asheville is like the Travel Channel or the Food Network. And when they realize they don't need any permits to just have handheld cameras, battery operated, walking around downtown, taking shots, they're always really, really grateful that they don't have to go through a process. But when you do need street closures or parking closures, police requirements for your production, public space uses, then we have a application and a separate webpage just for commercial film and photography. And last but not least, the pole banner program. Right now we have pole banners up for the Big Crafty that's happening at Harris Cherokee Center, Asheville. We have pole banners on Lexington Avenue for neighborhood identification. We also have a UNCA program downtown where they're doing neighborhood identification. And so we're trying to ramp that up. We're not sure yet, but hoping that the River Arts District will continue under the new program. They have a pretty large banner policy there. All right, so that is the external resources that we provide. And then our next slide, we'll talk about our internal resources. So to permit any one event, we have to use 5 different software platforms plus Google to make it happen. Munis does accounting, RecTrack does billing, Acela does permitting, OfficerTrack maintains our officers, and FormSite is where we build all of our forms. We also have a custom internal site that we built through Google where we administer all of the events and get the approvals of our event team. So our event team includes police, fire, parks, and recreation, all the departments that are on this list here. Every event is reviewed by each of these departments and requires approval by each of these departments before we'll be issuing any permits. I would say that Department of Transportation is probably the least impacted and doesn't always approve every application. Like I said, we go back on that now because they're not always involved in most of our events that don't take place on DOT roadways. But environmental health is part of it, and they love our system. And I just heard from them recently saying they hope that other cities can go to a system like that in our county. Those are our internal resources that we use for every event. Can be time consuming, but it's what works. It's a combination of applications and tools. Next page. So once we were able to get through our legal come to Jesus recollections or something where we got to the point where we figured out a way that we can still support events by using the Arts Asheville organization and having them re-grant out funds that organizers can use for reimbursement of certain fees and charges. And these are the applicants that we had this year. And I see Katie is here. And Katie, did I hear you correctly earlier to say that you've announced awards?
No.
Okay.
We've notified awardees, but we can't, until the contracts are done, we can't announce.
All right, great. Well, these are the applicants, and I'm really looking forward to seeing some of these events happen with some help from the city. These fees are exclusive of certain categories, So we are not able to support law enforcement because those costs are paid off-duty officers that work through a secondary employer for that. Public works services are not available to special events. We don't have a team that can come out to events and clean up or pick up trash and do that type of thing. We don't provide medical or transportation signs and installation, but we are able to support fees for application and administrative, permitting fees, property use fees, traffic control, barricade rentals, parking meter closure fees, and transit impact fees, which are a lot of the fees that organizers are paid for other than those at the bottom. I do realize that law enforcement is an event's largest cost from the city, but because they're working off-duty, it would actually have to be a grant from the off-duty management company or something for us to provide that. So when Katie is ready and these awards are announced, I will be so excited to hear from these organizers and work on their applications with them. Next slide. So when we made this transition to doing the grants, we also wanted to preserve certain holiday commemorations for the city, which we have adopted as city events. So that's why I have adopted here underneath each title to show when that event officially became a City of Asheville event. So Memorial Day in 2007, Juneteenth in 2021, Independence Day in 2014, the holiday parade established, I believe, in 1946. I did my math, could have been 1945, but I think I'm pretty close. And Veterans Day was in 2018. We also very much hope to adopt the MLK Peace March in recognition of MLK Day in 2024, this coming year. And so that would be our sixth federal holiday commemoration that the city is supporting as a city function. And yeah, all of these are great. I should say Juneteenth, even though it was adopted in 2021, the first event was conducted by My Daddy Taught Me That at MLK Park. The second event was conducted by the YMI Cultural Center, and that was in 2022. And last year, the Martin Luther King Association produced the 2023 event. We're looking forward to working with the MLK Association in 2024 for a similar scope of work. And yeah, we have contracts underway for most of these events. I'm looking at them now. I think all of them are underway. We typically do 3-year agreements. And so we're running up on that 2024 through 2026 calendar year for these next agreements. The next slide. So questions, and I want to tell you that Johanna sent me a list of questions in advance of this meeting, and I was very grateful. It gave me time to think about the questions, and I can start off with those, or we can skip through those and get right to anything that you all have. But if you'd like, I can talk about her questions first, however you'd like to go.
Let's see if anyone has other thoughts, John. Sometimes our group is like, we don't know where to start. So I usually just have those as options, but there may be some questions that came directly out of your conversation. I'll just say, as someone who's worked directly with John, who's done outdoor special events, like, it's really powerful to have that kind of support in the city. And it's really amazing to see the relationships that are really tied to arts and placemaking. So yeah, I'm curious to hear some other thoughts or questions that you guys have. So let's open the floor up. And like we said, we'll go to those questions if we don't have any ideas.
I think we've got 5 really good ones.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. And that was the thing too. I was like, I'm not even sure where we should start too. So Andrew looks like he wants to raise his hand. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, John, thanks for all that. It's real helpful, and welcome to the PAC umbrella.
Yeah.
And I guess my question is that going forward, this is a great overview for what's going on for the whole year. I imagine you're going to be checking back in with the commission on new things, changes, new events that get permitted, and things like that.
I don't know if this is too much to ask, but yes to your question, Andrew. Absolutely. I would like to be at every meeting, even if I'm not on the agenda, so that I'm fully participating in this group. If you'll have me, and I promise not to chime in on things that I don't know anything about. I would love to have someone from this committee serve on our event team to receive each application that comes in. And while voting may not be necessary, I think it will be helpful for someone with the committee to see the types of applications that come in, and maybe come up with some opportunities that we're not seeing by looking at those applications. In the questions I received earlier, some of this was around how can PAC be assistance in this work, and I think that in order to know that and to figure out what's the priority, because there's lots of ways, you'll need to see what comes in on a routine basis. So if someone, no one has to make this decision today, but if someone would care to be on that email distribution list, you'll receive all the applications, all the communications we send out to the team, and really get an inside view of how we work together to get all of these events permitted.
Yeah, so
Well-
what is that? Sorry.
Sorry, it's not going to be me since I'm rolling off the commission. But that is, I do think, I do find value in that for the commission and for the city. I guess, and another little side topic. I know that the street performer brochure is in need of an update. It's gotten a little dusty. We've had some policy changes around noise ordinance and things like that that should be updated. So whenever the quiet part of your year is, and you've got some space to work on that, I'd be happy to pitch in with you on that. Whether I'm on the commission or not, I want to remain a resource to the city when it comes to street performers and things like that. So please do think of me when it's time.
Absolutely, and I have to say that I was not the author of the document. I think Dana Frankel headed that up. But if Dana would allow me, and Carly and Stephanie would allow me to work on that, I'd be happy to do that. My slower season is now. Once the holiday parade passes, things will get extremely slow in January. December, of course, then January, February are slow months for us. And so I'm sure we could do something in those months.
That's a great time to do it too, because that's the low time in the busking season, and being able to get that kicked off before the next season really starts in the spring would be great. And it started out as a collaboration between the city and the street performers in the first place. So to keep that collaboration going, I think would be valuable.
Awesome.
Carly, did you want to ask specifically about what it might look like to have someone a part of that?
That is exactly
Committee
what I was going to ask. Yeah, because you had mentioned there was a listserv that, people would be notified when new applications come in for permits for events.
That listserv where people are notified, they're notified of the event, the location, the description that's provided, the time frame, but they're not receiving the actual permitting applications with all the details from the organizer, their emergency plan, their site map, things like that. And if I were to add a member to the review team, they would just be copied on all of the emails I send out. That's how we distribute the applications. They come in, I send them out by email. Then they go onto our internal web page for people to look at and view, provide their dispositions. The PAC representative could have a disposition, approve, deny, request a meeting, or no comment at all. Or they could maybe have no comment just for a little while to see what types of things come in, and then kind of establish questions as they come. But it would be, most of the information coming from us would be by email, and it would just be a matter of looking at each email when you get to look at the application and see how we can help.
Katie?
That sounds like a lot of emails, John. What is the amount of emails like people would be expecting to receive?
About 175 a year.
Okay. I thought you were going to say a week.
No, it'll get busy. They're not evenly spaced out throughout the year, although we try to make it that way as best we can. But definitely we have our seasons of April and May start getting really busy with applications. June and July are also pretty busy months. And then we have most of the applications by the end of July for the rest of the calendar year. So then it's just a matter of producing everything that people have applied to do.
So it's just a notification when it initially comes in, not every time somebody approves something.
No, right. You wouldn't get
Okay.
notified of every approval. That would be crazy.
That's a great question. I was like, wow, every back and forth email, that would be a lot. I'm sure your inbox is full.
No, you could check into the sheet and see how the approvals are going. Some approvals come in really quick because like the public transit, they will approve any event that doesn't impact a public transit route, pretty much. And I think also having someone from this body on that team will allow some objective consideration, maybe, because city staff have to, if someone applies for a permit for a street closure, unless it's a problem for that street to be closed, the public transportation department is going to issue that permit. And the same thing with public works. If barricades are requested for an event, they're going to provide them to that event. Parks is going to approve that event in most cases. And so it's really, the staff aren't able to think in that way that someone from this body could, and think, not to say that we can do anything about thoughts around, is this the best use of the park on this particular day? But it would help encourage conversation with the organizers and the events, and to think about, well, this is what our PAC board is thinking about this event. And this is where they would, and the power of persuasion is my strongest asset, because I can't force people to do anything they don't want to do with their events, but we can encourage and we can persuade people to do things differently and better and improve things. And if that persuasion is coming from a member of the public through this commission, then it's not necessarily John Philman or someone from another department making suggestions where they don't feel so comfortable.
Yeah.
Is everybody on that committee a staff person, or do you have other?
No, there's no staff members there. We had Sarah Henry. Remember Sarah, who I loved? Yeah. Sarah Henry was a staff person serving on the economic development side of things for a while, but we haven't had a staff person, a non-staff person on the event for a while.
Okay.
Katie?
So I'm just wondering how that works with our bylaws, because no one PAC member can speak on behalf of PAC. So we couldn't say PAC approves this event. It would just be that one individual saying that they approve it.
Yeah, it could be that there's not an approval piece to it. Maybe just a general awareness piece, and maybe some events are flagged for us to discuss at the next PAC meeting.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing from you, John, is you're kind of looking for support and input more than needing someone to say yay or nay in a lot of ways. Andrew, I'll get to you really quick. I was going to say, personally, that's something that I'd be open to do, right? It's a world I'm interested in. It's not the most exciting for everybody, but the people like you and I who love that. So if that would be helpful, if there's other people who are interested in that, let's make sure that they're available. But if not, then I'm happy to sort of join that and just kind of get in and see what happens. So yeah, Andrew, what's your thought there?
Yeah, Katie, just in response to Katie's concern, I wouldn't necessarily see that as carrying the approval of the entire committee, just more of like a liaison role and a dual hat role rather than carrying approval for the entire committee. Of course, that would, where the rubber meets the road, would be where that matters more, but I don't have a problem with that in principle.
Yeah. Awesome. Anyone else want to express interest or not interest in that, or have other questions for John they want to bring up?
I'll just say, I feel like a lot of the details of this, some of the stuff that we're talking about, the bylaws, the nitty gritty, we can put this as a topic perhaps for our annual retreat of how this relationship will work and how we can best support John and best feel like we are giving valuable feedback and being a support for these event organizers.
I think that's a good idea, Carly. Set some
Yeah.
context around this. Yeah.
Yeah. I could see having John being there and working through some of that being a really powerful part of the annual plan this year.
Agreed.
I
John sounds like
You're
he's ready
invited.
for it.
want to go to the retreat.
You're invited, John.
Okay.
Awesome. Any other questions? If not, maybe John, why don't you pull some of the thoughts that you had, from some of the questions I answered. And then, like we said, I think we need a deeper dive and probably the annual retreat makes sense for this.
Okay. So the first question was, how does the department collaborate with arts nonprofits and what impact does this collaboration have on the cultural landscape of Asheville? Well, what impact does this collaboration have on the cultural landscape of Asheville is directly answered in the research study. And I can tell you that arts nonprofits have, and people in arts positions can collaborate with us to curate and program cultural elements within outdoor events like live performances, art installations, interactive exhibits. You can also, what we do also is funding and sponsorship, our relationship with Katie and Arts Asheville, and the development work with to secure funding for sponsorship for events, and nonprofits can contribute financially or assist in securing support for their networks. So one of the things that we do there, besides working with Katie, is we also work with other nonprofits to figure out how we can reduce their costs and make it more affordable for them to do their event. That might just be a simple reduction in hours, or it could be elimination of a component. It could be moving the event to a new location that costs less. We also do community engagement, and we would recommend that because arts nonprofits have strong community ties, collaborating with them enhances community engagement by incorporating diverse cultural elements. Artist participation, that's another way that we work with nonprofits, is through their artist procurement for events. Educational initiatives, promotion of local art scene, cultural diversity and inclusivity. We can promote cultural diversity and inclusivity through arts nonprofits. And so that's where the line is a little thin between where the city can, what the city can do and what the private sector can do. We had another question. Capacity building is another one. I mean, capacity building is huge and we need it so badly. We try to do as much training and education as we can in this department. But I will say that many events are produced by a different organizer every year. And so what you gain one year, you'll probably lose by the following year and you'll start over again. And that's because a lot of these nonprofits don't have paid positions. They don't have enough funding to have paid full-time people or even part-time people that can stay on board for lengths of time. So nonprofits can definitely contribute to the planning and execution of these types of events. And one of the things that I hope that Pat can help with is long-term cultural planning, to create a long-term approach to how are we using special events to the best of our ability. Another question was, what are some of the challenges faced by our department? Well, we have the same challenges many departments have. But one of them is navigating through complex permitting processes and ensuring compliance with local regulations, balancing the need for permits with the desire to streamline the event planning process. And so everyone wants to have a permit to do an event. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people do. But most of our customers have never produced an event before. They just have a dream. And it's our job to move that dream from a dream into a reality and to help them get there without them losing everything along the way. And that's one of the things that I've learned over the years is sometimes I have to push back and suggest that an organization not do the full scope of their plan on the first year, because it's an expense, and I don't want these efforts to die after 1 year. And so that's one of our challenges. Logistics and infrastructure is another. coordinating logistics, traffic management, parking, waste disposal, all of those things, ensuring the event has all the necessary things they need, safety and security. The holiday parade is one of our most stressful events, to be honest. It's an event with a lot of people, a lot of bodies on the street, and we want to ensure that everyone is safe. And so I won't really sleep well until late Saturday night. But we'll get through the parade and it'll be a great one again this year. Community impact. That's a challenge, managing concerns from local residents and businesses, like the calls I got today from businesses about the holiday parade. And also addressing the positive impacts of events with the inconvenience that a lot of businesses project as a result of events. And so getting that's a challenge for us. We also have budget constraints like any other department. We have weather and environmental factors that affect our work, vendor and sponsor management, hurting all of those certificates of insurance for so many vendors and all of the different contracted services that come up. One of the things we talked about on our recent regional event call, so we have a regional group that meets North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina, Tennessee. We have a lot of different people from cities on this group. And one of the things we were talking about is post-event evaluations. How do we get quality post-event evaluations when we don't have a physical person at the event to do one? That's an existing challenge, and it'll continue to be one until we can actually have hands in on every event during the duration of that event. We want to incorporate that feedback from stakeholders to enhance the future events, but we need the feedback loop to be completed, and that's a hard part of our job. Another question was, are there specific areas where additional support from the Public Art and Cultural Commission would be beneficial? Well, that's really around advocacy and working within your networks. Support for community-driven art projects and initiatives that involve residents in the creative process. Art in public spaces. Encouraging funding and logistical support for cultural events and festivals. Youth and education programs, public art conservation, temporary and rotating exhibitions. These are all things that I would love to see more of, that I'm sure the commission could be part of. How do outdoor special events contribute to building a connected and engaged community? This is the easiest question in the world, Joanna. I was like, this is a quiz. So, well, we have shared experiences, promoting social interaction, cultural enrichment, supporting local business, encouraging volunteerism, enhancing civic pride, building a positive image for the city, physical and mental health benefits of events, celebrating diversity, and community feedback and input. Those are everything I could come up with.
I was gonna say, that feels like a mic drop moment, Jeff.
That's everything.
Yeah.
And then specific initiatives or programs that focus on community involvement during these events. Well, yeah, there are very many initiatives or programs that focus on community involvement during events. I can't say that we have a whole lot to do with the production of those elements, but we certainly encourage them, like a local talent showcase, interactive workshops and demonstrations, community art projects, booths and exhibitions for vendors, volunteer opportunities, community forums and panels, parades and processions, storytelling, cultural exchanges, community contests. I have so many things here listed under that topic of any specific initiative or programs that focus on community involvement. Events are community involvement. That is what they are. It requires a investment by the primary organization, an investment by the organization's volunteers, by their vendors and their subcontractors, trusting that organization to do what they said and bring the people to the event that they thought they would have. They are truly community events are built by the community. And then how does the department ensure that outdoor special events are inclusive and representative of Asheville's diverse community? Strong suggestions. That's what we do. We encourage diversity in their programming. We encourage community input and involvement and collaboration with other cultural organizations. We talk about accessibility to make sure that everyone can attend the event. we talk about language accessibility. How can we make sure that the materials that are provided in an event are available? And a lot of times, you know, it's not that you need to do all of this preparation, but it's that you need to have a diversity champion and an accessibility champion that people can call and talk to or email about their concerns and their needs and their interests. And I serve as that champion for a lot of events where they can call me. And the holiday parade, if anyone needed handicap parking, their deadline was 12 p.m. today. But I would still get them a handicap spot if they called me early Saturday morning. Anyway, those are some of the many answers to these questions that I would love to share at a PAC retreat and really drill down on some of these things and see how we can work together better. But again, I'm very, 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 very pleased that we have this committee that I can have a feedback loop, because without that feedback loop, it's so difficult to trust yourself and your own instincts. And, you know, you have your peers in other cities that are doing things and you're talking to them about them, but nothing is the same as having people in your own town that know your own town and know what they can do. So that's all I have.
I love it. I mean, I just want to iterate again. You've been such a dynamic individual serving so many people in this community. I think it's kind of exciting to see how we can support and bring this feedback loop a little close. Any last minute thoughts or questions? Wrap up things for John. This is just starting the relationship we have with him, so that's exciting. Not seeing anything. This group can be kind of quiet sometimes, John.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the thumbs up.
Yeah.
I love working with you all. I think I know you. I think I know you all.
Yeah, very, very excited for sure.
Yeah, John, feel free to loop me in as the person for now, right? Shove me on those emails. We'll start seeing what's happening. And then if someone else decides that they're a better fit later on, we're having 2 people roll off and adding 3, 4, something like that more coming soon. So yeah, in that shift, we'll see if there's anyone better suited than me.
You got it. I'll have you set up by next week.
I don't know if that was a good thing or bad thing now.
It'll be good. It'll be slow. It'll be a slow roll.
Perfect.
You right in.
Awesome. Well, John, so good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, John, for that overview. That was great.
So
Thanks,
awesome. Okay, looks like we're gonna do a quick update on the PAC ordinance. Carly, if you wanna take that one away.
Yeah, so I went and presented to the Boards and Commissions Committee on the 14th, and they made a motion to send the ordinance on to City Council. So they're recommending approval of our changes, pretty much exactly the way it was written. I went through and did the revisions to the ordinance based on our last meeting, and there were some little tweaks and changes that had to happen just based on legal's input and the city clerk's office. But we are well on our way to getting those ordinance changes adopted. So that's very exciting. Progress has been made. Yes, Andrew.
Carly, do you have an edited version of that showing those changes? I'm curious, mainly academically, about what that input was, just so it helps, I think, me become a better policymaker when I see what those edits are. So if you can share what those changes were from city attorney and city clerk's office, I'd be very curious.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have provided a link in the presentation and on the agenda that takes you to the materials that were presented to the Boards and Commissions Committee. And the proposed changes to the ordinance are in that document. And the way that I went about showing that was underlined words were things that were added, and cross through words were words that were being eliminated.
Beautiful. So
you'll be able to see kind of where we're crossing things out and adding things in.
That'll make that review really, really fast. Thank you for doing it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if everybody got a chance to review those materials, but please take a look. There was a presentation that was put together for the Boards and Commissions Committee too that walks through the reasoning behind why we were making the changes. And I think most of the committee members were in support and excited for what we were trying to do with the permanent seats and bringing in some more of that regional input and support from our arts organizations in the community. There was some comment and concern from one of the council members, Councilmember Roney, regarding the Explore Asheville seat and just like why Explore Asheville and, you know, not AC Entertainment or the Symphony or that sort of thing. So there was some discussion back and forth around that item that I think if you all go and watch the meeting and the presentation that was given and some of that discussion, I think will give you a little bit of insight into that. But overall, a lot of support, and hopefully it'll go through council without too many issues. And that will be at the it'll be on the agenda for the December 12th City Council meeting.
It's pretty exciting. Big work.
Yeah, we're making some moves, making some progress. Feels good.
I know. Okay, I know we are kind of running out of time, so let's see if we can't try and whip this out. We need to kind of talk about the retreat. And obviously, we'd like to do it after January 9th because we will hopefully have those new members by then. One of the conversations we had in our executive meeting, which is Allie, Carly, me, and Ellie, right? So we kind of just discussed where we think are the best options to help condense this meeting. We thought we could look at possibly doing it sometime around that next meeting. So the proposed date that's up here is Friday, the January 19th.
Actually, it's Thursday. So our next regular.
I was seeing that the next meeting's Thursday, but then I see that the annual report's due the next day. Sorry. So we had been talking about doing it that day. Thank you. That's where I was like, oh gosh, what's that? So yeah, we were looking at doing it the same day as our next meeting, January 18th. We need more time than we have now. I forget how long the retreat is. Carly, do you remember?
I think in the past we've done a half day.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So we could continue to do that length of time. I think.
Yeah, like an afternoon, Wednesday, 5 or.
So yeah, I'd love to open it up for discussion about the date and if that date works, and if not, what else. And then the other thing is Allie and I would love to have some other members kind of helping plan the retreat. The interesting thing is it would there's not a lot of options, right? So it's basically like, does Pat, Shirley, or Pete want to be a part of it since the other two are rolling off? At least having one other member would be valuable. So that would probably be a couple emails, a meeting once or twice digitally. It shouldn't be that much of your time. So yeah, let's open it up unless Allie has other thoughts or Carly has other thoughts for what. Okay, cool. Yeah, so thoughts about the date, which again, it's really Pete, Allie, and Shirley who will be discussing this because we'll have the other two gone.
The date works for me.
Okay.
Date works for me as well. I'm happy to assist with planning.
Yay. That's awesome. And then Shirley, if
The
you
date
it's
is okay with me also.
Okay, great. So that works. Do we have a preference on trying to do it the second half of the day since we already have blocked off part of that time for PAC? So I guess noon to 5 or something like that.
Yeah, I think that'd be better.
Do a lunch potentially.
That'll work.
Okay, awesome. Well, that feels great. And then we have Pat who's interested. Shirley or Pete, would you be interested? If not, I think Allie, Pat, and I can do it, but we just don't want to disclude if you guys are interested in participating.
Let me see your emails first.
I love it. The point for me, and I think what Allie and I were talking a lot about is, again, we're going to have John there. We're going to have these new members. Carly's been doing so much back end work on Google Drive and organization systems. So it feels like a really beautiful reset for us here. So I'd love everybody's opinion. So why don't we start with, here's what I think this will look like. And then we'll see if everyone wants to be on the committee or if it's just Pat, or if you guys even want to just give feedback by email, feels fine to me too. So yeah, I'd love creative, fun ways to have these conversations too. So if anyone has creative ideas there, that would be awesome. Are there other specific things, Carly, you feel like we need to really hash out right now? I'm happy to sort of, again, put a bit of a thought together, put some dates out for a potential Zoom meeting or things like that. And I'll just send it to everyone except Andrew and Katie at this point.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. And I think there's depending on, maybe that first meeting of this group, kind of planning the retreat, maybe putting some topics or ideas together or an agenda. I think it would be good to have everybody be able to chime in on those topics and what we feel like we really need to focus on.
Totally. Yeah, again, I think everybody's opinion would be really valuable there for sure. So I love that. Awesome. I see Allie just sent a message. I can't see it for some weird reason.
Oh yeah, what did she say?
She said her computer's dying. She went to get a cord.
Okay, awesome. I'll try and pick up on the next one. Carly, definitely help me if I get it wrong. So one of the things that Katie had sort of implemented was everybody doing a bit of a round robin of like, what's coming up in your world? What's artistic? All those things. We were kind of wondering about the idea of shifting that a little bit. And so once a quarter, we would kind of get into the logistics, like how many meetings did everybody attend? Are we feeling like we all understand what's happening? It's a little more the administrative side. And then the other times could be what we're kind of coining the PAC Pulse. And then it would be one or two individuals would be able to present on a specific project, topic, idea, something in the public art realm. And that way, instead of sort of always having to be like, oh gosh, what am I going to talk about? It's one person or two people know they're going to talk. They get to present what they want. So we'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on kind of shifting the end of the meeting to a little bit more of that methodology. And again, we can talk more about this at the annual retreat too, but definitely wanted to like drop this initial thought in you guys' brain and see, because the point here is, are you getting what you need? Are we feeling like we're moving forward? Are we making the right support systems for PAC and for the city? So I want to make sure that we're having those conversations. Looks like Pete's shaking his head. What you got, Pete?
No, I just think the idea, I don't have a course in mind, but I just think being able to think that through and be clear about what our engagement is, because our engagement goes up and down. That's really the only time of the meeting that everybody kind of weighs in, and how do we look at that and make that happen in the best way that we can. I think it'd be good.
Yeah. And then just to piggyback, I'll let other people share their thoughts too. We had also thought about, deciding, are we doing working group meetings outside of PAC every other month? Are we meeting monthly? Just kind of, again, all these conversations, what's going to make us work the most effectively? And so having that deeper conversation and then getting those specific working groups organized and set up and scheduled. So again, you guys are bringing information to PAC. It's not just us presenting things back to you. So. Anyone else? Oh, go ahead.
Katie has her hand up.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I didn't see that.
I think just to echo what Pete was saying, the reason we started that is just to get everybody talking. So just so you know where that was coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was a great thing. I think we were just trying to figure out what's going to make sure they feel like that they're prepared for that too. So I'm open to whatever other thoughts anybody has there too. This is just what, we kind of started brainstorming. I'm excited to see what comes out of the annual retreat there. Is Allie back? I'd love for her to chime in on any.
Yes, I was going to chime in. I know I'd stepped away at a critical moment, but yeah, the thinking was that, you might have already said this, but we had so much fun, and it was this really activating experience to go out on the urban trail, and everybody kind of pick a station and present really, really short, couple minutes on it. So it was sort of like, how can we make that end of meeting check-in a little more dynamic, right? And maybe it is, one person signs up or a couple people sign up and they get to share a public art project that they saw that they really love, or, they maybe researched a piece in town, or just something to just be a little bit dynamic and activating. And maybe it is, it's quick enough that everybody can go and do a round table about it, which is a little bit of homework that also could seed some ideas as well. Yeah. So just thinking about kind of ways to make that fun and maybe give us some ideas.
Yeah. I mean, even like seeing Sekou and his presentation, that's the kind of stuff that I think we get pretty excited about here. So yeah, I think kind of formalizing that process and taking what Katie had started and really expounding upon it feels just like the next step to support us here. So. Okay, so I want you guys to think about, PAC Pulse, quarter check-ins, how we can kind of work on those. I will definitely get an email out to all the members who are staying about the retreat planning process. I'll start a Google Doc with some thoughts. And then I think we need to check the public comments if someone can let me know if there are any public comments.
Yeah, let me take a peek here. We do not have any public comment.
Okay, well, let me find my little script. I think I'm supposed to say. We have 0 public comments. The audio recordings have been transcribed and have been provided to the committee along with pre-submitted written comments. Since we don't have any, it didn't. Okay, are there any last minute thoughts, questions, things, or are we ready to adjourn? Oh, did I see a hand raise or I heard a beep?
It looked like Andrew had raised his hand.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say this is my final scheduled meeting. This
Oh
isn't
my
the,
God.
this is not the first meeting I thought was my last meeting. So I will not engage in soliloquy because I bet we'll see each other again. But I do want to thank everyone for the pleasure of serving with you. This was my first appointed role with the city, and I've gone on to many others and spent a lot of time. But I really cut my teeth in this group. And I just want to thank everybody for carrying me so far along with your ability and dedication. And thank you. So I just want to say thank you very much. So as I take this hat off, I'm sure I will find others to wear. But I want to acknowledge all the growth that I have seen in myself and through working with all of you, and also how much better things that are now than when we first gotten started. There's so much more energy and funding behind what our mission is at PAC, and that is very satisfying to see. There's much left undone, and as that comes up, I hope that whether I am one of your fellow commissioners or not, that you view me as a resource. And please reach out to me if you think that I have something that you have something that I can help on. So thank you all so much.
I just want to piggyback on what Andrew said. This is also my last meeting. It's been a great and challenging 6 years, and there's been some good progress, and there's a lot of progress still to make. And so I look forward to seeing what you all do from a distance this time. But I'm always here if you need anything.
My God, I'm so glad you guys presence that. I completely forgot that since we aren't meeting in December, this is it. It's been, the whole time I've been here, you guys have been here. So it's been really wonderful to have your support. And we absolutely are going to work with you guys in the future, right? That's not going anywhere. So
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you both for your service to this commission. You've both added so much in my time, learning how to be the staff liaison and work with you all and with the city on public art. You've been just amazing, giving really great feedback and helping guide. So I appreciate both of you very, very much. And I had in my head that you were going to be at the January retreat. And then as we were talking, realized that was not going to be the case. So,
well,
bummer there. I wish we'd planned a little more something.
I know.
And I apologize for that.
I might show up depending on what snacks you have. Just...
Well,
make sure they're compelling.
Invited.
I love it. Well, I will now adjourn the meeting unless there's any objections. Okay, so adjourned. See y'all later.